The asteroid belt was cold and silent, just like it had been for billions of years. But hidden among the floating rocks, something was different. A ship hung in the darkness, invisible to any scanner that might pass by. Inside that ship, Elindra watched Earth through her viewing screen. She had been watching for 3 years now. Elindra was tall and thin, with silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her ears came to sharp points and her eyes glowed with a soft blue light. She was an elf from a world called Sylvanthar, though that world was dying now. Her people had given up on the galaxy long ago, choosing to fade away in peace rather than fight anymore. But Elindra could not let go so easily. In the cargo hold below her feet, something massive stirred. Ember was waking up. The dragon stretched her wings, each one longer than 3 human buses placed end to end. Her scales were the color of burning coals, red and orange and gold all mixed together. Smoke drifted from her nostrils as she yawned. The dragon's voice filled Elindra's mind without making any sound. "Why do you watch them still?" the dragon asked. 3 years you have observed these humans. What more is there to learn?" Elindra smiled softly. She reached out with her thoughts to answer her old friend. "They are fascinating," she replied. "They fight among themselves constantly, yet they also help each other in ways I have not seen in centuries. They are violent and kind, selfish and generous all at the same time." Ember snorted, sending small flames into the air. "They are children playing with weapons they barely understand," the dragon said. "Like all young species." Perhaps, Elindra thought. But there is something else, something I cannot name. When I watch them, I feel hope again. The dragon fell silent at that. Hope was something neither of them had felt in a very long time. Elindra turned her attention back to Earth. She could see the blue and green planet hanging in space like a jewel. From this distance, it looked peaceful. She knew better. Down there, humans were preparing for war. They had detected something approaching their solar system. Something terrible. Her screens began to flash with new data. Elindra's hands moved quickly across the controls, pulling up information. What she saw made her heart grow cold. "They are here," she whispered. "Who?" Ember demanded, already knowing the answer but hoping she was wrong. "The Karvathi Empire." The dragon roared, and the whole ship shook. Elindra felt Ember's rage and fear mixing together. They both knew what the Karvathi did to worlds they conquered. There would be nothing left but dust and bones. "How many ships?" Ember asked. Elindra's fingers trembled as she read the numbers. 9,700 warships. She said quietly. The dragon said nothing. There was nothing to say. No force in the known galaxy could stand against an armada that size. The Karvathi had brought enough firepower to crack a planet in half. "We must leave," Ember said finally. "This is not our fight. Our people chose isolation. We cannot break that law." Elindra knew the dragon was right. The Sylvanthari had made their choice long ago. They would not interfere with other species anymore. Too many wars, too much death, too much pain. Better to fade away than to watch the galaxy tear itself apart again and again. But she could not stop staring at Earth. Down there, billions of humans were going about their lives. Some were eating breakfast. Some were going to work. Some were playing with their children. They had no idea that death was coming for them on a scale they could not imagine. "I cannot leave," Elindra said. The dragon's presence in her mind grew sharp with worry. "You would break our oldest law?" Ember asked. "For these humans you do not even know." "Yes," Elindra said simply. "Why?" "Because when I look at them, I see what we used to be," the elf woman answered. "Before we grew tired. Before we stopped believing that anything mattered. These humans still fight for things. They still hope for things. They still dream. And they will die for those dreams," Ember said. "The Karvathi will give them no mercy." "I know," Elindra replied. "But perhaps we can give them a chance. Not to win, but to die on their own terms, if nothing else." The dragon was quiet for a long moment. Then Elindra felt something change in their bond. Ember's anger faded, replaced by something else. Determination. "Very well," the dragon said. "If you will break our people's law, then I will break it with you. We have been together for 400 years. I will not let you face this alone." Elindra felt tears sting her eyes. She reached out with her mind and touched Ember's consciousness, sharing her gratitude. "Thank you, old friend." "What will we do?" Ember asked. "We are only one ship and one dragon. We cannot fight 9,000 warships. No, Elindra agreed. But we can watch. We can learn. And when the time is right, perhaps we can help in small ways. She began working at her controls again, setting up monitoring systems that would track the Karvathi fleet. Her technology was far beyond anything humans possessed. She would be able to see everything the enemy did, hear everything they said. The Karvathi ships were still far away, moving through space at speeds that bent reality itself, but they would arrive soon. Elindra calculated they had maybe 3 days before the invasion began. She needed to see how Earth would respond. Her screens shifted to show a military base on Earth's surface. Men and women in uniforms were running between buildings. Alarms were sounding. Ships were launching into space. One woman stood out from the others. She was giving orders with a voice that cut through the chaos. Her name appeared on Elindra's screen. Commander Amy Brooks. This one is strong, Ember observed, watching through their shared connection. Yes, Elindra agreed. She does not panic. She prepares. They watched as Amy coordinated Earth's defenses. It was clear she knew they could not win. The humans had maybe 50 warships, and most of those were converted from civilian vessels. They had weapons, but nothing that could match Karvathi shielding technology. Yet Amy did not surrender. She did not run. She simply worked harder. Elindra felt something stir in her chest. That old feeling she thought had died long ago. It felt like watching the sun rise after a long night. Over the next 2 days, she watched humanity prepare for war. They knew they would lose. Every calculation said so. Every simulation ended in defeat. But they prepared anyway. Parents hugged their children tighter. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Scientists worked around the clock trying to finish experimental weapons. Volunteers lined up to join the fight, even though joining meant certain death. Elindra saw an old man with white hair put on a uniform he had not worn in 40 years. She saw a young woman who barely looked 18 climb into a fighter ship. She saw a mother kiss her daughter and then board a transport heading for the defense stations. They know they are going to die, Ember said softly. Yet they go anyway. Yes, Elindra whispered. That is what makes them beautiful. On the 3rd day, the Karvathi fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. Elindra's screens filled with data as 9,700 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They spread across space like a swarm of locusts, blotting out the stars. At the center of the fleet was the largest ship Elindra had ever seen. It was the flagship, commanded by Admiral Vexthor himself. The Admiral was a legend among the Karvathi, known for his cruelty and his perfect record. He had never lost a battle. The Karvathi sent their message to Earth. It was simple and direct. Surrender now or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. Elindra watched as the message reached Earth's leaders. She watched as they gathered to discuss their response. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to run. Commander Amy Brooks stood up and spoke just 2 words. Come closer. Earth's response was transmitted back to the Karvathi fleet on all frequencies. Those 2 words delivered with absolute defiance. Elindra felt Ember's approval rumbling through their bond. They have chosen death with honor, the dragon said. I respect that, perhaps, Elindra replied. Or perhaps they have chosen something else entirely. She began typing commands into her system, breaking through the Karvathi communication networks with technology they would never detect. It was time to stop simply watching. What are you doing? Ember asked. Giving them a chance, Elindra said. A very small one, but a chance nonetheless. She sent a single encrypted message to Earth's defense network. It would reach Commander Amy Brooks within seconds. The message was short. They expect you to die with honor. Disappoint them. Elindra sat back in her chair and watched her screens. The Karvathi fleet was moving forward, weapons charging, ready to begin the bombardment, and Earth's forces moved to meet them. Tiny ships against an impossible enemy. The war had begun. The Karvathi fleet moved through space like a wall of death. 9,700 warships advanced toward Earth in perfect formation. Their weapons hummed with power, ready to turn the blue planet into burning ash. Admiral Vexthor sat on the bridge of his flagship, watching the humans scramble to defend themselves. He found it amusing. These primitives thought they could resist. They thought their tiny ships and crude weapons would make a difference. He had destroyed 100 worlds. Earth would be no different. Send them one more message, Vexthor commanded. Tell them they have one final chance to surrender. I am feeling generous today. His communications officer sent the message. They waited for Earth's response. It came quickly. Commander Amy Brooks spoke for all humanity, and her words were broadcast across every channel. "You want our world? Come and take it," Vex Thor laughed. It was a cold sound that made his crew shiver. "As you wish," he said. "Begin the bombardment." The Karvathi warships opened fire. 1,000 beams of pure energy lanced toward Earth's orbital defense stations. Metal vaporized instantly. Shields collapsed. Explosions bloomed in the darkness like terrible flowers. But Earth fired back. Commander Amy Brooks stood in the command center, watching the battle displays. Her face was calm even as the stations around Earth began to die. She had known this moment would come. She had prepared for it. "All ships attack pattern Delta," she ordered. "Do not wait for them to come to us. We go to them." Lieutenant Beth Parker heard the order and felt her heart race. She was piloting one of the converted civilian ships, a mining vessel that had been fitted with nuclear missiles. Her crew of 12 had been dock workers 3 months ago. Now they were soldiers. "You heard the commander," Beth said to her crew. "Let's show these aliens what humans do when you threaten our home." Her ship accelerated toward the Karvathi fleet. Around her, 50 other human vessels did the same. They were moths flying into fire, but they flew anyway. Hidden in the asteroid belt, Elindra watched the battle begin. Her hands moved across her controls, gathering data, analyzing tactics. The Karvathi were fighting exactly as she expected. Overwhelming force applied methodically. No creativity, just raw power. But the humans were different. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," Ember observed. "Because they do not." Elindra watched a human ship dodge between 2 Karvathi cruisers, firing missiles at point-blank range before spinning away. The missiles were primitive by galactic standards, but they found weak points in the alien shields. Small victories, the elf woman thought. But victories nonetheless, she made a decision. Her fingers flew across the controls, breaking into the Karvathi command network. It was risky. If they detected her, they would know someone else was here. But the humans needed help. Elindra began sending tactical data to Commander Amy Brooks. Information about Karvathi shield frequencies, weapon cooldown times, formation weak points. The data appeared on Amy's screens as if from nowhere. Amy stared at the information for only a moment before using it. "All ships," she broadcast. "Target coordinates are being sent to you now. Hit them exactly where I tell you." The human fleet shifted tactics. They stopped attacking blindly and started hitting specific points. Karvathi shields flickered and failed. Ships took damage they should not have taken. On his flagship, Admiral Vex Thor noticed. "Someone is helping them," he said. "Find out who." His technical officers began searching for the source of the data leak. They would not find Elindra. Her technology was centuries beyond theirs. Lieutenant Beth Parker received new targeting data and immediately acted on it. Her ship swooped down on a Karvathi destroyer, missiles locking onto a weak point in the engine section. She fired everything she had. The destroyer exploded. Her crew cheered. It was their first kill. Beth knew it might be their last moment of joy, but she let them have it. "Another ship," she ordered. "Find me another target." The battle raged for hours. Human ships died by the dozens, but they took Karvathi vessels with them. Every human pilot who was about to die would aim their ship at the enemy and ram it. Their ships became missiles, carrying enough explosives to crack open alien hulls. The Karvathi had never seen anything like it. "These humans are insane," one Karvathi captain reported to Admiral Vex Thor. "They sacrificed themselves without hesitation." Vex Thor watched a human fighter crash into one of his cruisers, destroying both vessels in a ball of fire. His face remained cold, but inside he felt something unfamiliar. "It might have been doubt. They are desperate," he said. "Increase the bombardment. Break their spirit." But human spirit was not so easily broken. Dr. Lisa Monroe worked in an underground facility, surrounded by experimental equipment. She was a quantum physicist who had been working on theoretical weapons for 10 years. Now she had hours to make those theories real. Her team had built gravitational pulse generators. On paper, they could create temporary black holes that would swallow enemy ships. But they had never been tested. The math said they might work. The math also said they might collapse and destroy Earth instead. Lisa stared at the activation switch. Her hands shook. "Do it," said the voice in her earpiece. It was Commander Amy Brooks. "We need that weapon now." Lisa took a deep breath and flipped the switch. Nothing happened for 3 seconds, then space itself began to scream. In orbit above Earth, reality twisted. A point of absolute darkness appeared among the Carvathi fleet. Ships nearby began sliding toward it, unable to escape. The black hole was small, but it was hungry. 50 Carvathi warships were pulled into the darkness and crushed. Then 100, then 200. Admiral Vexthor watched in horror as his fleet was devoured. "Shut down their weapon," he shouted. "Fire everything at the source." The Carvathi fleet turned their guns on Earth's surface, searching for the gravitational generator. They found it and fired. The entire facility where Dr. Lisa Monroe worked vanished in a beam of energy. But it was too late. The weapon had already done its damage, and then it started to grow. The black hole was becoming unstable. It was supposed to collapse after a few seconds. Instead, it was expanding. Soon it would be large enough to threaten Earth itself. Elindra saw the danger immediately. Her screens filled with warnings. The humans had created something they could not control. She looked at Ember in the cargo hold below. "I must intervene directly," she said through their bond. "Or Earth dies along with the Carvathi." The dragon's eyes glowed like coals. "Then we intervene," Ember said. "Our people will condemn us, but we will be condemned together." Elindra activated her ship's main systems. The vessel had been hidden for 3 years, wrapped in cloaking fields that made it invisible. Now those fields dropped away. Her ship appeared in space like a ghost becoming solid. It was beautiful and terrible, covered in silver metal that seemed to glow with inner light. Ancient symbols ran along its hull, written in a language older than most stars. The Carvathi fleet detected her immediately. "Unknown vessel. Identify yourself," they demanded. Elindra ignored them. She had work to do. Her ship moved toward the growing black hole. Energy built around her vessel. Power that made the Carvathi weapons look like children's toys. This was Sylvanthari technology, built when her people still ruled the galaxy. She released that power in a pulse of pure force. The black hole shuddered. Its growth stopped. Slowly, carefully, Elindra began to compress it, forcing it to collapse safely. It took all her concentration and all her ship's power. Admiral Vexthor stared at the silver ship on his screens. "What is that?" he demanded. His sensors officer's voice shook when he answered. "Sylvanthari design, sir. But that is impossible. The Sylvanthari disappeared centuries ago." "Apparently not all of them," Vexthor said quietly. He watched as the black hole collapsed into nothing, taking no more ships with it. The strange silver vessel had saved both fleets from destruction. "Who are you?" Vexthor broadcast to Elindra. "Why do you protect these primitives?" Elindra finally responded. Her voice was calm and cold. "I am Elindra of Sylvanthar. These humans are under my protection. Leave now or face consequences you cannot imagine." Vexthor laughed, though it sounded forced. "You are one ship," he said. "I have thousands. You cannot stop us all." Ember's roar echoed through space. It should not have been possible. Sound does not travel in vacuum, but dragon roar was not merely sound. It was a force of nature, broadcast on frequencies that bypassed physics entirely. Every Carvathi on every ship heard it and felt primal fear grip their hearts. "Perhaps I am one ship," Elindra said, "but I am not alone." The cargo bay of her vessel opened. Ember launched into space, her wings spreading wide. She was massive and magnificent, scales glowing with inner fire. She flew between the Carvathi ships, and everywhere she passed, weapons mysteriously failed. On Earth, Commander Amy Brooks watched the silver ship and the dragon with wide eyes. "What in the name of all that is holy?" she whispered. Then her communication systems crackled with a new message. It came directly to her, bypassing all security. "Commander Brooks," the voice said. It was female and strange, with an accent Amy had never heard. "I am Elindra. I have been watching your species. You fight well, but you need help. Will you accept it?" Amy did not hesitate. "Yes," she said. "Good," Elindra replied. "Then let us show the Carvathi what happens when they threaten those I have chosen to defend." The battle was far from over, but now the odds had changed. Earth had an ally with ancient technology and a dragon who breathed fire that could melt steel. Admiral Vexthor looked at his casualty reports. Over 4,000 ships destroyed or damaged by primitives and one strange elf woman with a dragon. "This should not be possible," he said. His second officer spoke carefully. "Sir, perhaps we should withdraw and request reinforcements." Vexthor's face twisted with rage. Withdraw, he shouted. We have never withdrawn. I have never lost a battle. I will not start now because of one ship and a flying lizard. He turned to his fleet. All vessels attack Formation Omega. We end this now. Destroy the silver ship first, then burn Earth to ash. The remaining Karvathi fleet, still numbering over 5,000 ships, turned as one toward Elindra's vessel. The war had truly begun. The battle finally ended after 18 hours of continuous fighting. The Karvathi fleet pulled back, damaged and confused. They had lost over 4,000 warships. Earth had lost nearly everything, but the planet still existed. That was enough. Commander Amy Brooks stood in what remained of the command center. Half the building was gone, torn away by an enemy weapon strike. She could see the sky through the hole in the wall. It was filled with smoke and burning debris falling from orbit. Her communication officer approached, looking exhausted. Commander, we have an incoming ship, the silver one. It is requesting permission to land. Amy looked up at the sky. She could see Elindra's vessel descending through the clouds, beautiful and strange against the gray smoke. Grant permission, Amy said. I want to meet whoever just saved our lives. The silver ship landed in the ruins of what used to be a military airfield. The hull opened and a ramp extended downward. Elindra walked out into Earth's atmosphere for the first time. She looked around at the destruction. Buildings reduced to rubble. Fires burning everywhere. The smell of death hanging heavy in the air. This was what war looked like up close. Behind her, Ember emerged from the ship. The dragon was too large to fit through the normal exit, so she simply tore a bigger opening. She landed on the broken concrete with a sound like thunder. Human soldiers immediately surrounded them, weapons raised. They had never seen an elf before. They had definitely never seen a dragon before. Amy Brooks walked through the circle of soldiers and stood face to face with Elindra. The two women studied each other in silence. You helped us, Amy said finally. Why, Elindra considered the question. How could she explain what she barely understood herself? Because I needed to remember what it feels like to believe in something, the elf woman said. Your people reminded me. Amy glanced at Ember. The dragon was watching them with eyes that glowed like molten gold. And your dragon? Amy asked. Ember is my companion, Elindra replied. We have been together for 400 years. Where I go, she goes. 400 years, Amy repeated. How old are you? Old enough to have seen too much death, Elindra said quietly, but perhaps not too old to prevent more of it. The two women walked together through the ruins, talking. Elindra explained who she was and where she came from. She told Amy about the Sylvan Thari, about how her people had once protected the galaxy until the weight of endless wars broke their spirits. We chose isolation over involvement, Elindra said. We decided it was better to fade away peacefully than to keep fighting battles that never truly ended. But you came back, Amy said. You broke that isolation for us. Yes, Elindra replied, because when I watched your people prepare to die rather than surrender, I saw something I thought was lost forever. The will to fight for what matters, the refusal to accept defeat, the hope that tomorrow might be better than today. Amy looked at the destruction around them. We lost millions today, she said. Our cities are burning. Our orbital stations are destroyed. Most of our fleet is gone. This does not feel like hope. But you are still here, Elindra said. That is everything. As long as you survive, you can rebuild. You can grow stronger. You can prepare for the next battle. Amy stopped walking and turned to face the elf woman. There will be a next battle, she asked. Yes, Elindra said simply. Admiral Vexthor will not accept this defeat. He still has over 5,000 ships. He will regroup and attack again. Then we need to be ready, Amy said. Can you help us prepare? I can do more than that, Elindra replied. I can teach you to use Sylvan Thari technology. I can show you how to build weapons that will give you a real chance of survival. What is the cost? Amy asked. Nothing comes free. The cost is accepting change, Elindra said. The technology I will share with you requires direct neural connection. Pilots must link their minds to the ships. Soldiers must merge their consciousness with their weapons. Some will not survive the process. Others will be changed forever. Amy thought about this for a long moment. How many might die during this process? She asked. Perhaps 4 out of every 10 who try, Elindra admitted. The human mind is not designed for this kind of integration. It will be painful and dangerous, and the alternative is certain death when the Carvathi return, Amy said. Yes, Elindra confirmed. Then we do it, Amy decided. I will ask for volunteers. No one will be forced. Within hours, the call went out across Earth. Survivors gathered to hear about the opportunity. Elindra stood before thousands of people and explained what she was offering. Power beyond anything humans had ever known, but also risk, pain, and possible death. She expected maybe a few hundred volunteers. Thousands stepped forward. An old man with white hair and scars on his face came forward. He had fought in 3 human wars and lost his family in the Carvathi bombardment. I have nothing left to lose, he said. Use me. A young woman barely 20 years old volunteered. She had been a student before the war. Now she wanted to become a weapon. They took everything from me, she said. Let me take something back. One by one, people stepped forward. Pilots who had lost their wings. Soldiers who had watched their units die. Scientists who wanted to turn their knowledge into action. Parents who had buried their children. They all volunteered. Major Claire Stevens stood in line with the others. She was a pilot, one of the few who had survived the first battle. She had flown her fighter through hell and somehow made it back. But her entire squadron was gone. 12 pilots she had trained with, laughed with, called friends. All dead. She waited her turn to speak with Elindra. When she reached the front of the line, Ember suddenly raised her massive head. The dragon stared at Claire with those burning eyes. Something passed between them, something Claire did not understand but felt in her bones. This one, Ember said, speaking directly into Elindra's mind. This one has the fire. Elindra looked at Claire more carefully. She could see it too. This human had something special. A strength that went beyond physical. A determination that bordered on fury. What is your name? Elindra asked. Major Claire Stevens, the pilot replied. I want to volunteer for whatever program gives me the best chance of killing these aliens. Elindra smiled slightly. I may have something different in mind for you, she said. Something that has never been done before. She gestured to Ember. My dragon wishes to bond with you, Elindra said, to share her consciousness with yours. You would become something new. Not quite human, not quite dragon. You would have her strength, her fire, her ability to survive in space, but you would also live for thousands of years, forever changed, forever separate from your species. Claire looked at the massive dragon. Ember looked back at her. For a moment, neither moved. Then Claire spoke. Will it make me strong enough to protect Earth? She asked. Yes, Ember replied. And Claire heard the voice directly in her mind. You will become a guardian, a protector. You will outlive everyone you know and love. You will watch generations pass while you remain, but you will have the power to keep them safe. Claire did not hesitate. I accept, she said. The bonding process took 3 days. Claire was brought into Elindra's ship and placed in a chamber filled with strange blue light. Ember curled around the chamber, her scales pressed against the outside. The dragon's consciousness began to merge with Claire's mind. It was agony. Claire felt her thoughts expanding, stretching, breaking apart, and reforming. She experienced memories that were not hers. Battles fought centuries ago, worlds that no longer existed. The feeling of flying through stars. She screamed until her voice gave out. Then she screamed in her mind, but she did not break. On the 3rd day, Claire opened her eyes. They glowed with the same golden light as Ember's. When she stood, she moved with a grace that was not human. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire. How do you feel? Elindra asked. Claire looked at her hands. She could see energy flowing through them, golden threads connecting her to Ember. I feel like I could tear a ship apart with my bare hands, she said. You probably could, Elindra replied. You are the first human-dragon bond. You are unique in all the galaxy. While Claire underwent her transformation, the other volunteers received their upgrades. Elindra had brought equipment from her ship, technology that could enhance human bodies and minds. Pilots were given neural interfaces that let them control ships with thought alone. Soldiers received armor that responded to their intentions. Scientists learned to manipulate energy fields with their consciousness. Not all survived the process. 4 out of every 10, just as Elindra had warned. But those who did survive became something more than human. They became weapons with minds, tools with souls, warriors with godlike abilities. Dr. Lisa Monroe was among the survivors. She had escaped the destruction of her facility and now worked with Elindra to understand Sylvanthari technology. Together they designed new weapons, stable gravitational manipulators, energy shields that could withstand Karvathi firepower, missiles that could phase through enemy defenses. "This technology is incredible," Lisa said one evening as they worked. "Why did your people stop using it?" "Because we became afraid of what we could do with it," Elindra admitted. "Every weapon we built made us more powerful and more dangerous. Eventually we realized we were becoming the very thing we fought against. But you are giving it to us anyway," Lisa said. "Yes," Elindra replied, "because you need it to survive, and because I believe you will use it differently than my people did." "How can you be sure?" Lisa asked. "I cannot be sure," Elindra said, "but I choose to have faith, something I have not done in a very long time." 2 weeks after the first battle, Admiral Vexthor had regrouped his fleet. He had sent messages to the Karvathi homeworlds requesting reinforcements. They had denied him. The Empire did not want to commit more resources to a world that had already cost them so much. So Vexthor prepared to attack with what he had. 5,700 warships, still more than enough to destroy Earth. But he was no longer confident. The silver ship worried him. The dragon terrified him. And reports said the humans were changing, becoming stronger. He called his senior officers together. "We attack in 3 days," he announced. "This time we show no mercy. We glass the entire planet, turn it into molten rock, leave nothing alive." "What about the Sylvanthari ship?" one officer asked. "We destroy it first," Vexthor said. "Focus all firepower on that vessel until it is ash. Then we deal with Earth." His officers nodded, but Vexthor could see the fear in their eyes. They had all heard embers roar. They all knew something had changed. On Earth, preparations continued. The enhanced soldiers trained with their new abilities. The upgraded pilots learned to merge with their ships. Claire Stevens practiced flying without a vessel, using Ember's power to move through space on wings of fire. Elindra watched it all and felt something she thought was long dead. Pride. Not in herself, but in these humans who refused to quit, who adapted and overcame, who stared at impossible odds and simply worked harder. On the night before the Karvathi would attack again, Elindra stood with Commander Amy Brooks on a hillside overlooking the ruins of a city. "Why did you really come here?" Amy asked. "There must be thousands of worlds in the galaxy. Why watch Earth for 3 years? Why risk everything to help us?" Elindra was quiet for a long time before answering. "Because my people are dying," she said finally. "Not from war or disease, but from apathy. We stopped believing anything mattered. We stopped trying to make things better. We just existed, waiting for the end. And we reminded you that life is worth fighting for," Amy said. "More than that," Elindra replied. "You reminded me what my people used to be. Warriors, protectors, guardians of those who could not defend themselves. We forgot that purpose. But you humans, you still remember. You are what we should have remained." She turned to face Amy. "The Karvathi will return soon," Elindra said. "They will attack with everything they have left. Many more humans will die, but I believe you can win. I believe you can show the galaxy that Earth is not prey." Amy looked at the elf woman. "We could not do it without you," she said. "Perhaps," Elindra replied. "But I could not have rediscovered my purpose without you, so perhaps we are even." In orbit above them, Claire Stevens flew through space on wings of golden fire, learning to be something the galaxy had never seen before, a human with the soul of a dragon. The final battle was coming. The Karvathi fleet returned 3 days later, 5,700 warships strong and hungry for revenge. Admiral Vexthor commanded from his flagship at the center of the formation, his face twisted with rage and determination. He had never lost a battle in his entire career, and he refused to let these primitives and one elf woman ruin his perfect record. This time there would be no mercy, no warnings, no chances to surrender. The plan was simple and brutal. Destroy the silver ship first, then burn Earth until nothing remained but cooling glass and ash. The fleet moved into attack position, spreading across space like a dark cloud that blotted out the stars. Weapons charged and ready, shields at maximum power. Every captain knew their orders, and every soldier was prepared to die if necessary to achieve victory on Earth. Commander Amy Brooks watched the approaching armada on her screens. The command center had been rebuilt in the past 3 weeks, New equipment filled the rooms and new soldiers stood at the stations, but many faces were missing, and the ghosts of those who had died weighed heavy on everyone. "All units report ready," her communications officer said. The voice was steady, but Amy could hear the fear underneath. She activated the fleet-wide channel and spoke to every enhanced human, every upgraded ship, every soldier who had volunteered to become something more than they were. "3 weeks ago they attacked us expecting an easy victory," Amy said, her voice carrying to thousands of warriors. "They thought we would break and run. They thought we would beg for mercy. They were wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today they return expecting to finish what they started," Amy continued. "They still think we are the same primitives they faced before. They still think they can win. Let us show them exactly how wrong they are." The enhanced pilots felt her words through their neural connections. Power surged through their bodies and their ships responded like extensions of their own limbs. Soldiers in Sylvanthari armor felt energy crackling across their skin. Scientists manning the new weapon stations felt reality itself bending to their will. And high above Earth, Claire Stevens spread wings of golden fire and roared with a voice that was both human and dragon. Ember's consciousness merged with hers completely now. They were one being with two souls, a fusion of human determination and dragon fury. The battle began. Admiral Vexthor gave the order and his fleet opened fire. 1,000 beams of energy lanced toward Earth and the defending forces. But this time something was different. This time the humans were ready. The energy beams hit shields that did not break. They struck armor that did not melt. They found targets that simply were not there anymore. Because the enhanced pilots could move their ships with thought alone, faster than any targeting computer could track. Commander Beth Parker led the first attack wave. She flew her upgraded fighter toward the enemy fleet at speeds that would have killed a normal human. But she was not normal anymore. Her mind was directly connected to her ship, and she felt every system as if it were part of her own body. "Target the command ship." She broadcast to her squadron, "All weapons, full power. Show them what humans can do." Her squadron of 20 ships dove toward Admiral Vexthor's flagship. They were not the clumsy, converted civilian vessels from the first battle. These were hybrid fighters built with Sylvanthari technology and human ingenuity combined. They were fast and deadly and hungry for vengeance. The Karvathi fleet tried to intercept them, but the human ships simply phased through their defensive fire. Elindra's technology allowed them to shift slightly out of normal space for brief moments. Becoming ghosts that solid matter could not touch, Beth's squadron reached the flagship and released their weapons. Missiles that could punch through any shield, energy beams that burned hotter than stars, and gravitational pulses that crushed metal like paper. The flagship's shields held but barely. Alarm systems screamed WOM journeyings across every deck, and Admiral Vexthor gripped his command chair with claws that dug into the metal. "What are they?" he demanded. "How are they doing this?" His tactical officer's voice shook with fear. "They have Sylvanthari technology, Admiral. They have merged it with their own designs. They are no longer the primitives we faced before. Then we destroy them all." Vexthor roared, "Every ship, full assault. Leave nothing standing." The Karvathi fleet surged forward, and so did Earth's defenders. The two forces met in a collision of metal and fire and fury that lit up space like a second sun. Claire Stevens flew through the chaos like a comet of golden flame. She tore through Karvathi cruisers with claws that could rend steel. She breathed fire that melted through armor and destroyed entire decks in seconds. She was everywhere at once and nowhere the enemy could predict. Every ship she destroyed, every enemy she killed, she felt Ember's satisfaction mixing with her own human rage. Together they were unstoppable, a force of nature wrapped in scales and fury. But Claire was not alone. Sergeant Laura Mitchell led ground forces in an attack that should have been impossible. She and her team used small ships to land directly on Karvathi vessels while the battle raged around them. Their Sylvanthari enhanced armor protected them from the vacuum of space and enemy fire. They cut through ship hulls with energy blades and poured inside like a flood of destruction. Laura's team moved through the alien vessels like ghosts, their enhanced bodies allowing them to fight in ways that defied physics. She led her squad into the engine room of a Karvathi battleship. They planted charges on every critical system, and then moved on to the next ship before the first one exploded. 3 battleships died this way in the first hour of combat. The Karvathi were not prepared for this kind of warfare. They expected ship-to-ship combat, orbital bombardment, the conventional rules of space warfare. They did not expect boarding parties that could survive in hard vacuum. Soldiers who could tear through their security with bare hands, enemies who fought with joy and fury in equal measure. Elindra watched from her silver ship, coordinating the defense and occasionally unleashing her own power. When a group of Karvathi destroyers tried to break through to attack Earth's surface, she simply erased them from existence. Her technology did not just destroy ships, it unmade them. Reality itself rewrote to declare they had never been there. One moment 3 destroyers were firing on Earth. The next moment there was only empty space and confused enemy captains wondering where their support vessels had gone. This was Silvanthari war magic, the power that had once made her people ruler of the galaxy. Elindra had not used it in centuries, and it felt both terrible and necessary. She was breaking every vow her people had made, but she did not care. Humanity deserved this protection. Dr. Lisa Monroe activated the new weapon system she had designed with Elindra's help. Stable gravitational manipulators that created localized singularities without the risk of runaway collapse. She targeted them carefully, placing each one where it would do the most damage to the enemy formation. Karvathi ships began collapsing into artificial black holes. A dozen here, a dozen there. The enemy fleet's perfect formation shattered as captains tried, desperately to avoid the gravity wells that appeared without warning. Admiral Vexthor watched his fleet being destroyed ship by ship, and he felt something he had never experienced in battle before: fear, real stomach-churning terror at the possibility of defeat. "How many have we lost?" he demanded. The tactical officer checked his screens and his face went pale. "Over 3,000 ships destroyed or disabled, Admiral. They are cutting through us like we are nothing." Vexthor looked at the battle displays and saw Earth's forces everywhere. Small and fast and impossibly deadly. He saw the Dragon Woman tearing through his cruisers, saw the Silver Ship erasing his destroyers, saw human boarding parties sabotaging his battleships from within. He had brought 5,700 warships to destroy one planet, and somehow he was losing. "Focus all remaining ships on the silver vessel," Vexthor ordered. "If we destroy it, the humans will break." 500 ships turned toward Elindra's position and fired everything they had. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize a moon. Energy beams converged on the silver ship from every direction at once. But Elindra simply smiled. Her shields held against the assault. Silvanthari technology was built to withstand attacks from multiple fleets. 500 ships were nothing compared to what her vessel could endure. The energy washed over her shields like water off stone, and while the Karvathi focused on her, Earth's forces struck from behind. Claire Stevens led the enhanced pilots in a devastating attack on the enemy formation. They destroyed 200 ships in minutes while the Karvathi were distracted. Admiral Vexthor realized his mistake too late. He had put all his attention on the wrong target. Commander Beth Parker saw her opportunity. The enemy flagship was exposed. Its escort ships had moved away to attack Elindra. The massive vessel hung in space with minimal protection. She made a decision that she knew would be her last. "All ships. This is Parker," she broadcast. "I am making a final run on the flagship. Do not follow me. Continue the attack on the main fleet." Her squadron tried to protest, but she cut the channel. She pointed her fighter at Admiral Vexthor's command ship and accelerated to maximum speed. Her neural connection to the ship made them one entity. She was not piloting it anymore. She was the ship. Karvathi Point Defense tried to shoot her down, but she was too fast and too determined. She phased in and out of normal space, dodging fire that would have vaporized her a second earlier. She reached the flagship and did not slow down. Beth Parker crashed through the massive ship's hull like a bullet through paper. Her fighter punched deep into the vessel's core, through deck after deck, through armor and shields and anything else that tried to stop her. She saw Admiral Vexthor on the bridge for one brief moment, before she activated her ship's self-destruct. The alien commander's eyes went wide with shock and fear. Beth smiled and thought of her crew, the 12 dock workers who had become soldiers, who had died in the first battle. Now she would join them. The explosion was massive beyond measure. Her fighter's core detonated with the force of a small star. The flagship came apart in pieces, tearing itself to shreds from the inside out. The blast wave caught 500 nearby ships, crushing them or throwing them away like toys in a hurricane. Secondary explosions rippled through the Karvathi fleet as damaged vessels collided or lost containment on their reactors. In 30 seconds, Beth Parker's sacrifice destroyed over 500 enemy warships. The Karvathi fleet broke. Ships began fleeing in every direction. Captains abandoned formation and ran for their lives. Admiral Vexthor was dead and their mighty armada was shattered. There was nothing left but survival. Commander Amy Brooks watched the enemy retreat on her screens. She counted the surviving ships as they fled the solar system. 17 vessels escaped into faster-than-light travel and disappeared into the dark between stars. 5,683 ships were destroyed or disabled beyond repair. The battle was over and Earth had won. The silence after the battle was deafening. Earth's orbit was filled with debris from thousands of destroyed ships. Burning metal floated through space like deadly rain, and the planet below was scarred with wounds that would take generations to heal. Commander Amy Brooks stood in the rebuilt command center and looked at the final casualty reports. Half of Earth's population was gone. Entire cities had been reduced to ash. Millions of soldiers and civilians had died in the defense, but Earth still existed, and that was everything. She activated the communication systems and spoke to what remained of humanity. Her voice was tired but strong, carrying across every frequency to every survivor who could hear, "We have won." Amy said. The words felt strange in her mouth after so much loss. The Carvathi came with 9,700 ships. They believed we would break. They believed we would beg for mercy. They were wrong. She paused and looked at the screen showing the damage to Earth. "We paid a terrible price for this victory," Amy continued. "We lost people we loved. We lost cities we built. We lost innocence we can never reclaim. But we survived, and we proved to the galaxy that humanity will not go quietly into the dark across Earth." Survivors listened to her words. Some cried, some cheered. Most simply felt numb from exhaustion and grief. They had fought beyond their limits and somehow lived to see another day in orbit above the planet. Claire Stevens floated in space with wings of golden fire spread wide. She no longer needed a ship or suit to survive in the vacuum. The bond with Ember had changed her permanently into something new. She could feel the dragon's thoughts mixing with her own, a constant presence in her mind that would never leave. Ember's memories stretched back thousands of years, and Claire could access all of them. She had become a guardian who would outlive everyone she knew. "Are you sad?" Ember asked through their shared consciousness. Claire replied honestly, "I will watch everyone I love grow old and die while I remain young. That is the burden of guardians." Ember said gently, "We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We sacrifice our own happiness so others can live in peace." Claire looked down at Earth, at the blue and green planet that was now her eternal responsibility. "I accept this burden," she said. "If it means Earth is safe, I will carry it for as long as necessary." "Good," Ember replied, "because we have many centuries ahead of us and much work to do in the ruins of Geneva." Elindra prepared her ship for departure. She had stayed for 3 weeks helping humanity rebuild and integrate the Sylvanthari technology, but now it was time to return to her own people. She stood on a hillside overlooking the city, or what remained of it. Construction crews worked day and night clearing debris and building new structures. Humans were resilient, and they refused to let destruction define them. Commander Amy Brooks walked up the hill to join her. The two women had become friends during the battle and its aftermath. They had shared the weight of command and the burden of making decisions that cost lives. "You are leaving," Amy said. "It was not a question," yes, Elindra replied. "I have been away from my people for too long. They need to know what I have learned here, and what have you learned?" Amy asked. "That isolation is a slow death," Elindra said. "My people chose to hide from the galaxy because we were tired of fighting. We thought peace meant withdrawal, but watching humanity has shown me we were wrong." She turned to face Amy directly. "True peace is not the absence of conflict," Elindra continued. "It is the courage to stand and protect what matters. You humans understand this in a way my people forgot." Amy smiled slightly. "We understand it because we have no choice. We are young and weak compared to the rest of the galaxy. If we do not fight, we die. That is why you are strong," Elindra said. "You know the value of what you defend because you might lose it at any moment. My people became so powerful that we forgot what we were protecting and why it mattered." The two women stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun set over the damaged city. "What will you tell your people?" Amy asked. "That they need to wake up," Elindra replied. "That the galaxy still needs guardians, that hiding until we fade away is not noble. It is cowardly. Do you think they will listen?" Amy said. "I do not know," Elindra admitted. "But I must try. You humans have given me hope, and I will share that hope with my people. Perhaps some will remember what we used to be." She reached into her robes and pulled out a small data crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "This contains coordinates to a cache of Sylvanthari technology." Alindra said, handing it to Amy. It is hidden in deep space far from any inhabited system. Weapons, ships, knowledge, everything humanity will need to defend itself against future threats. Amy took the crystal carefully. Why give us this? You barely know us because I have watched you for 3 years. Alindra said, I have seen your capacity for both destruction and creation. You will use this power to protect, not to conquer. I trust you in a way I have not trusted anyone in centuries. What if you are wrong? Amy asked. What if we become the very thing you fear? Then you will learn the same lessons my people learned. Alindra replied, but I do not believe that will happen. You have something we lost. You remember what you are fighting for. Amy looked at the crystal in her hand. This tiny object contained enough knowledge to change humanity forever. We will not waste this gift. She promised. I know, Alindra said. That is why I am giving it to you the next morning. Alindra's silver ship lifted off from Earth for the last time. Claire Stevens and Ember flew alongside it for a while, escorting the elf woman to the edge of the solar system. Alindra spoke to Claire through a communication channel. You have become something unique, the elf woman said. The first human-dragon bond in the history of the galaxy. You will live for thousands of years and see wonders and horrors beyond imagination. I know, Claire replied. Ember has shown me some of her memories. I understand what I have become. Use your power wisely. Alindra advised. You are a guardian now. That means protecting even those who do not want your protection. Even those who fear you, even those who hate you, I will remember. Claire promised. Alindra smiled, though Claire could not see it. I believe you will, the elf woman said. Farewell, Claire Stevens, guardian of Earth. May your watch be long and your enemies few. The silver ship accelerated and vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving Claire alone with Ember among the stars across the galaxy. The 17 surviving Karvathi ships limped back to their homeworlds. They carried recordings of the battle, evidence of what had happened when the Empire sent 9,700 warships to conquer one primitive planet. The recordings spread quickly. Other species saw the impossible footage of humans merged with Sylvanthari technology, of a dragon breathing fire in the void of space, of an elf woman erasing ships from reality itself, of primitive defenders destroying the greatest armada ever assembled. Fear rippled through the galactic community. Species that had been eyeing Earth with hunger now looked away. Worlds that had considered humanity easy prey reconsidered their plans. Empires that might have attacked chose to wait and observe instead. Humanity had become legendary in a single battle. On Earth, reconstruction continued. Dr. Lisa Monroe led teams of scientists working to understand and improve the Sylvanthari technology Alindra had left behind. They built new ships, designed better weapons, created defenses that would make Earth nearly impossible to conquer. President Kate Morrison addressed the United Earth Council 6 months after the battle. We are no longer the same species we were a year ago, she said to the assembled leaders. We have been tested by fire and we have emerged stronger, but we must not forget the lessons we learned. She looked at each council member in turn. The Karvathi attacked us because they thought we were weak. Kate continued. They saw a divided planet full of primitives who would be easy to conquer. We proved them wrong, but in doing so, we showed the galaxy what humans can do when pushed to the edge. So what do we do now? One council member asked. We prepare, Kate said simply. We build, we train, we learn. We make sure that no one ever again looks at Earth and sees prey. The council voted unanimously to establish the Earth Defense Fleet, a permanent military force dedicated to protecting the planet and eventually expanding into space. Volunteers came by the thousands. People who wanted to honor those who had died, who wanted to ensure their sacrifice meant something. Commander Amy Brooks was promoted to admiral and given command of the new fleet. Her first order was to commission a memorial station in orbit, a place where the names of every person who died in the defense would be recorded forever. She stood at the memorial's dedication ceremony and spoke to the crowd. They sent 9,700 ships to destroy us, Amy said, her voice carrying across the station. Only 17 returned home. That is the message we sent to the galaxy. She paused and looked at the wall of names behind her. But the real message is not about how many ships we destroyed, Amy continued. It is about why we fought. We fought for our families, for our future, for the right to exist. And we will continue to fight for those things as long as we draw breath. The crowd erupted in applause, and Amy felt tears sting her eyes. So many names on that wall. So many friends and comrades who would never see the future they died to protect. 2 years after the battle, Alindra returned to Earth. Her ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, and immediately Claire Stevens was there to greet her. The Guardian had been patrolling as she always did, watching for threats. "You came back," Claire said with surprise and joy. "I had to see what you had built," Alindra replied, "and I bring news from my people, good news." Claire asked hopefully some, Alindra admitted. "I convinced 300 Sylvanthari to leave our isolation and return to the galaxy. It is a small number out of millions, but it is a beginning. 300 ancient elves with technology beyond anything most species possessed. It was more than a beginning. It was a revolution. And there is more," Alindra continued. "We wish to form an alliance with humanity, a partnership between the oldest guardians and the newest defenders." Claire felt Ember's excitement mixing with her own. "Earth would be honored," she said. The two of them flew toward Earth together. One a silver ship containing the last war mage of a dying race. The other a human woman bonded with a dragon who had seen civilizations rise and fall. When they reached Earth, Commander Amy Brooks met them with news of her own. "We found the cache," Amy said. "The technology you left for us, we have been studying it and building with it. Earth now has a fleet of 50 warships using hybrid human Sylvanthari design. Show me." Alindra requested. They took her to the orbital shipyards where the new fleet was being constructed. Sleek vessels that combined human innovation with Sylvanthari elegance. Ships that could fight and endure. Weapons of defense that would make any aggressor think twice. Alindra looked at the fleet and felt pride swell in her chest. "You have done well," she said. "Your people have taken my gift and made it your own. You have not simply copied, you have improved." "That is what humans do," Amy replied with a slight smile. "We adapt and overcome." The alliance was formalized 1 month later. Earth and the 300 returning Sylvanthari signed a treaty of mutual defense and cooperation. Together they would protect the galaxy's younger species. Together they would stand against threats too large for either to face alone. On the anniversary of the battle, Claire Stevens flew patrol around Earth as she did every day. She looked down at the planet below and thought about how much had changed, how many had died, how much had been sacrificed, but Earth was still there. Humanity was still thriving, and the galaxy now knew that this small blue world was not to be trifled with. She received a transmission from Admiral Amy Brooks. "Anything to report?" "Guardian," Amy asked, all quiet. Claire replied. "No threats detected. Earth is safe." "Good," Amy said. "Keep up the good watch." Claire smiled and spread her wings wider, catching solar radiation like wind beneath dragon scales. "They sent 9,700 ships to assault Earth," she said softly to herself. "Only 17 returned. And now the whole galaxy knows. Humanity does not break. We do not surrender. We do not fade quietly into the night." Ember's voice rumbled in her mind with satisfaction and agreement. "We are guardians now," the dragon said. "And we will remain so for as long as stars burn in the sky forever if necessary." Claire agreed together, human and dragon. They flew through space around their home, watching, waiting, protecting, the eternal guardians of a world that refused to die.